is very simple, basically what we're talking about right now. But the nature of this conversation should be common in our communities. You should not be wasting your time marching and praying and sitting around talking about racism, which is all total diversion and mind control systems. Um, that's not to condemn people who have good intentions. However, good intentions does not make a good surgeon. So get away with the dirty butter knives. And the same thing with operations in government, etc. So again, Corwanto. Now I'm going to, because it keeps skipping, so I'm going to deal with what's there. So as they interrupt, nature, divine nature, will come in and rescue. Anyway, 9. Since the Congress for the United States are the only lawful legislative body that has delegated authority to lay and collect taxes, then who and what entity authorized the Township of Pennsauken Incorporated Board of Taxation, Tax Collectors, and Tax Commissioner, and the State of New Jersey Incorporated and or its employees to lay and collect property taxes? Answer, and you have a space for them to answer, because they go like they send stuff to you. Oh, this is a summons to come to. You're going to be a juror. Like they send you stuff. You're supposed to be sending them stuff, but you're going to do it competently. And so these things are bill of particulars, and also discovery and probantos are the nature of your instruction as being nationals of the land, and those of you who think that you're citizens of the nation state. Because remember, the United States is not a nation, therefore you're not citizens of the United States. But if you think that you are, you're already in trouble. And I know it's really difficult for a lot of people, because the logic for all of us is to honor the fundamental principles of government and to be a part of a legitimate governmental structure under what has been called citizens' duties and social duties. Because we have basic social duties and responsibilities to each other as being human. And in political order, there are fundamental civic operations and civic duties that we have to one another. However, an assumption in those areas shall not be the norm with our people anymore. They must know the basics of these principles, or civic basics, and this is just simply part of it. Again, why we're addressing this, because so much injury has come to our people, so much loss of property has come to our people by being cheated via liens coming from actually criminal operatives who have been impersonating as constitutional officers for decades, and it must be addressed. This bill of particulars is part of that address. Any questions, Dr. Nayo, in relationship to some of that? Because I think even though we have 6 pages here, the nature of it is, I think you most already have it.
There are questions and comments, but not necessarily with regard to.
Please don't tell them, make it clear, so I don't.
No,
they're muddy just around.
Maybe I'm saying they may not be directly related to what you're saying. There are other things that are out here. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, there are questions and comments, but they're definitely not necessarily. They're not in regards in relation to what you are speaking on, to subject matter.
All right.
So
then I'll go into
well, here's a comment I'll share from Tracy Holcomb Bay. There is only one de jure government on the land. Everyone else is acting.
You got that right. And so actors are imposters. Mm-hmm. And this must be this must be cognate to everyone. Again, this is also why you do Corwantos, because that must be cleared up. In other words, also, as we and many people are trying to help our people, get from under this artificial subjugation and nom de guerre and straw man operations. That must be, these principles must be part of your cognate operations, your cognate thought processes. And it's not to be made at all or ever complex. This is why we're just talking the principles. And it's back to also people starting to get themselves in the state of mind of questioning people who claim to be government and doing it competently and knowing the proper questions to ask, not assuming anything. Because actually, as soon as they answer the first two questions, etc., they're already out of the box anyway. However, much of this is to contribute to the learning curve of the people who have been devoid or have been not told these facts. And as example, even when you're dealing with the Inquisition revenue services who are trying to put liens on people, etc., you would go to United States Code of Law, Title 26, CFR Code of Federal Regulations. And as you already know, that is a non de jure and it's ex post de facto. And it's a colorable code. So once you understand that, you would automatically have a reference point to even counter them with the established law that they're claiming to be operating with, etc., or the authorization, and it's already dead and void. And this is again why they don't teach civics. So a thief, logically, and people, this is why they spend so much time or effort keeping the people, or in the general, what you call populace, battling against each other, arguing fake race arguments and things like that to keep you from paying attention to the fact that the people have you been blindly and wrongfully and unfortunately claiming to be government has actually been enmity to you and actually been robbing you under a color of law and with hostility and with force of arms and using the tax stolen from you to create other entities to rob you and to injure you and to imprison you even further when you begin to counter their false claims. This is again why many people, once they find the truth out about the frauds that have been instituted, they start hesitating because they're full of fear. They're full of fear because the people who have been claiming to be your public servants, you begin to recognize, and they see that you recognize that they have really been your enemies. Unfortunate truth, but truth nonetheless. And you better learn to deal with it. And particularly many people who have, been sacrificing generations in the name of honoring or respecting or giving honor to people who you've been assuming to be legitimately or constitutionally elected officers. That whole platform has been compromised again since 1861, and not only have your alleged votes never counted, all of the elections have been rigged under de facto operations from then to now. Unfortunate, but it's true. That's not to condemn people's goodwill or trying to adhere themselves to or align themselves with the republic honor of constitution government. However, that's not what you've been getting, and you need to know that that's the fact. That's not opinion. That's the fact. And again, in order to rebut them, you do it with intelligence, not with violence. You can do it with intelligence, with a bill of particulars. When they send you something asking you questions and sign, you send them something and ask them questions and tell them to sign it and see if they do. I guarantee you they won't, because they know they're criminals. The problem of it is they know that the masses of the people are not aware and have not been aware that they have been organized criminals and members of the Circle Church and Chancery. And they've been causing most of the economic problems that you've ever experienced in all of your lives. And that's the truth. And understand, some devil or Satan didn't do it to you. So don't let them play that game with you either. And also the Greys from the dark side of the moon didn't do it to you either. These people that you've been calling government did it. And people that they have contracted at your expense to actually operate against you and to cause injury to you, economic, social, and political. Fact, fact, fact. Now, you also can go on. Now, remember, on each one of these questions that you present to them, you have a section for them to fill out, just like they've been sending stuff to you to fill out. And these are yes or no and qualification answers. Now, number 10, this is the agent who had sent this bill of attainder out in the name of taxation to this brother in 2014. And this is his question back to him. Daniel O'Brien, are you a member of the United States of America Congress? Are you member or members of the United States of America legislative branch of government, or are you a private corporation contractor? Answer, yes or no. Number 11, are you, Daniel O'Brien, an employee or private contractor of the International Revenue Service, or have you been delegated by the de jure Congress for the United States to act in a legislative or executive capacity? If so, please indicate herein and show all instrumentalities and provide all copies of affidavits or affirmations or delegations orders and executive orders for our investigation, and particularly under the rule of discovery. Answer, yes or no. Note, and this is an interjection note, House Joint Resolution 192, issued by the 73rd Congress for the of the United States, not for the United States. First session, joint resolution to assure uniform value to the coins and currencies of the United States, whereas the holding of or dealing in gold affects the public interest and therefore subject to proper regulation and restriction, and whereas the existing emergency alleged has disclosed that provisions of obligations which purport to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency of the United States, or in an amount of money of the United States measured thereby, obstruct the power of the Congress to regulate the value of money of the United States, and are inconsistent with the declared policy of the Congress to maintain at all times the equal power of every dollar coined or issued by the United States in the markets and in the payment of debts. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee the right to require payment in gold or particular kind of coin or currency, or in any amount of money of the United States measured thereby, is declared to be against public policy, and no such provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation hereafter incurred, and every obligation hereafter or heretofore incurred, whether or not any such provisions is contained therein, or made with respect thereto shall be discharged upon payment, dollar for dollar, in any such coin or currency which at the time is legal tender for public and private debts, and any such provision contained in any law authorizing obligations to be issued by or under the authority of the United States is hereby repealed, but the repeal of any such provision shall not invalidate any other provision or authority contained in such law. Now, since the tax collector, Daniel O'Brien, is and are all doing business as the state of New Jersey, Township of Pennsauken Incorporated, Board of Taxation, Division of Revenue Collection, and the Tax Assessor Office, and are demanding money and payment for a taxation, then are any of you employees or contractors of any national, are you members of any national banking association, and are any of your companies or departments lawfully or lawful, are they lawful financial institutions registered with the Comptroller of Currency of the United States Department of Treasury, Department of Justice, and authorized to do banking in accordance with Title 12 Code of Federal, they're skipping on me again. Oh, they're messing with me. Oh, this is just so funny. So keep in mind all of these activities that they're doing are consist of constructive fraud, illegal securitization. In other words, they're making securities unlawfully, and racketeering in violation of the RICO Act. That's racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations, and that would be Title U.S. Code of 1963, Section A, B, C, D, 3, in violation of the General Assembly's right of indigenous people. And that's also 1786, 1787, 1836 treaty in force. And so you have care of carbon. This would be CC to the FOFR, Daniel O'Brien Jr., tax collector, Township of Pennsauken Incorporated Tax Office, 5605 North Crescent Boulevard, Pennsauken, New Jersey 00811. And keep this in mind. Put this in context with 2014. And at that time, Kim Guadagno, New Jersey State Secretary of State, New Jersey Department of State, P.O. Box 300, Trenton, New Jersey 08625. And then witness, trustee, jurist, in propria persona, Moorish American, natural heir, sovereign freeholder, proprius plena, proprietas plena, aboriginal minister, etc. That's pretty much the closeout, although there's other stuff in between. And they've been messing with this stuff, but that's the nature. And so you start comprehending the duty and the obligations of the nationals and the citizens. Keep in mind, this is the duty, not just a point of reference that you should have knowledge of. It is actually the duty of the nationals and the citizens to enforce the law. So you've been negligent, we collectively have been negligent in our responsibilities and our duties as nationals, being the national of the land. And so that would deal with treaty and impose constitutional enforcement to the subjects, etc. And those who are citizens, their obligation to do the same to enforce the treaty and the Constitution. Failure to have done so has appeared to consent to criminal operatives imposing themselves under fraud elections to be government, and they've been operating since 1861 quite successfully to both undermine the republic in order to undermine the treaties and the Constitution, and they've been doing so quite successfully. And they've been actually fraudulently commanding a Roman tithe under the guise of property tax which is also a fraud. And the people have been trained to that under animal husbandry, and they have been practicing or consenting to it, not knowing that not only does it not apply to them, not only that they have been misclassified, and that it is absolute criminal fraud. However, to your interest, to the interest of all of us, it is good and it is well that you begin to start putting these criminal operatives who have been impostoring of government in their place by stop cooperating and giving extortion taxes under false pretexts in a misclassification venue of color of law and color of office and color of operations, which has been going on and unfortunately has actually been used to enforce the fraud upon you. So these instrumentalities, such as bill of particulars and quo warrantos, is a public record of rebuttal. And they are challenged to answer that just the way they've asked you to answer. And with that, I cede to the people to ask any questions, because the nature of the principle is shared.
Okay, let me see. Taxation. This question. Well, how does this apply? Abiyomi Ross says, how does this apply to Canada?
It applies to all governments. And keep in mind that Canada and the United States Corporation have the same international number. They both come under the Circle Church and Chancery and the Queen of England. The idea that most people have that these are separate jurisdictions, that is more for the public than the fact. In other words, they're actually in partnership, pretending to be separate jurisdictions only for the public.
And also,
but in fact, they are conjoined members of the Roman Curia.
And they also appear to have very strained trade deals, but like you said, they are one and the same.